So, welcome to this event in the Limbury studio for the Royal Opera House Insight programme, and it is a huge pleasure for me to be spending the next hour in conversation with Sir Antonio Pappano. It's an incredibly busy season for you this season. You've got, I think, 7 things I've totted up.
It's a little busier than normal. You know, each season, it's funny, I don't think of seasons being separate one from the other. From 2002, when I started, it seems like it's just been one season that's been going on. They seem to blend into each other. A lot has been made of the fact that I do a lot of different styles of music. But if you look at the important music directors of the world, James Levine, Valery Gergiev, and Daniel Barenboim, they're all doing very varied repertoire. If you're the boss, the musical boss of the house, I think it's very, very important that you stick your nose in to all the corners of the repertory, and so you can keep an eye also on the orchestra and the development of the orchestra. And okay, I mean, if you speak languages, I do the opera languages. I don't do Russian, unfortunately, but I do Italian and German and French and English, and that gets me through a lot of repertoire. If you have a connection to the language, of course, you're drawn to want to conduct that repertory. And I've always that's kind of been my credo. I don't try to pigeonhole myself. It doesn't matter how many times people say that, he conducts Puccini so well, and that's it. So that doesn't satisfy me at all.
I think it's important to commission new work and to keep on doing it for an opera house. Well,
I think, yes, that's an easy question to answer. The challenge is, what kind of title do you choose?
Let's party!
With this, Mark Anthony Turnage, we felt very strongly that we had to choose a contemporary subject for a contemporary opera. And this is very uncomfortable, some of it, to watch. Even though it's terribly risky, I tend to want to go with the more contemporary subject and see where that brings us.
So you've been here for 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of your home, and you're not going anywhere. When did it first start feeling like home, this building? Because you made your debut here a long time ago.
Well, I have to say that the first 5 years, I was here regularly and conducting and doing my thing, but to make friends also with the orchestra and to get to know the public of London and the tastes and get to really know. This house is not a pushover in the audience, not the audience, not the orchestra, not the chorus. You have to kind of earn your spurs, After 5 years, that was one point. And then after we did The Ring in cycle form, that was another point. That was a big stepping stone for me, because I felt I'd arrived to the somehow next step. Because those are the kind of pieces that really challenge everybody in the house, especially the music director. And if you're responsible for the lot, then you're out there, you're exposed. And so I felt that was a big step, and since then I've really felt like I am, in a way, the embodiment of this house. Me and the house are not separate. We are each other somehow. And that's a wonderful thing to feel.
And what about your relationship with the orchestra?
We do so many different things, and we're having to reinvent ourselves every time. We jump from Puccini to Wagner to Verdi to Mozart to contemporary, from the Barber of Seville, even from the Barber of Seville to Rigoletto to Anna Nicole. All that stuff. And so I think I change with every piece, and they have to change with every piece. So I think the respect is very strong, but each piece has certain demands that we have to meet, and so it's like starting again. We have a backlog of experience together, which is fantastic, and we can count on each other, and there's a theatrical trust. I know that they have theater in their bones, and they know that about me. And so together we can do stuff. But you can't shortcut the work to get to a result.
Let's have a little listen. Puccini Suor Angelica.
Is this the intermezzo?
Why did you pick this? Because I think this might have been your suggestion. Is this a particular favourite?
Music's very nice. No singers.
You don't pigeon yourself, but is there something about Puccini?
There is. I spoke about sophistication. There's a natural sophistication in Puccini, even though he's manipulating you from note one, because he was one of the great theatre musicians. He knew how to write for the theatre. He knew about timing. None of his operas is too long, because they've been honed, distilled. That was part of a torturous process. He drove everybody around him crazy. The librettists, I mean, he really drove them to madness to get just the right weight of the declamation, the right tone, the right length of phrase lengths, and something that would stir the heart. I mean, Bohème is a very well-known opera, but it can only be conducted by people who really have a deep knowledge of the opera and have a real knowledge of its ins and outs, because it's treacherous. If for a newcomer to come in and try to conduct La Bohème, forget it. The other pitfall is that to stamp the melodies in your ear, in your brain, and in your heart, and in your soul, Puccini often doubles the singing line with the violins of the orchestra. And if you listen to any aria, you'll hear exactly what I mean. Especially in Tosca, Butterfly, Manon Lescaut. And this makes for very difficult balance issues for singers who don't have particularly big voices, or voices that don't really penetrate the orchestra.
The other kind of precarious thing in a way that you've mentioned, which is that he's manipulating you, and it's irresistible.
Yes.
But as a conductor, you can't fall into it.
What tends to happen with Puccini is that it tends to be sentimentalized. And so that it's actually either dripping sugar or, trying to provoke the tears of the audience, And I mean, he was a very fastidious man, a very refined man, loved sports cars, loved women, and was a really snappy dresser. And so he wasn't shoddy. He didn't take just the easy route, You have to balance things with Puccini. And you always have to have a sense of the language. Therefore, the direction of the language must never be compromised, even when you're conducting slowly. How many times have you heard, well, this is more the singer than conductor, but Che gelida manina se la lasci riscaldare. That's pretty enough. But it's not the language. Italians don't speak that way. They say, Che gelida manina se la lasci riscaldare. And that's how you have to conduct it. Che gelida See that sense of direction? Se la lasci riscaldar. Now, there's no real bar that's like the one before it, but it has a phraseology that is at one with the language, and that's hugely important in Puccini. Otherwise,
let's talk about singers. You said earlier it's a good bit because there are no singers. You've been working with singers since you were very young indeed, when you accompanied your father's singing lessons. Do you like singers?
I admire singers so much. I adore them and I admire them because I know, I mean, you get up on that stage and have to sing in tune, in time, you put the costume on, the lights, conductor screaming at you, the stage director, you have to do all that. It's a really very tough job with two very delicate chords here that can just go awry at any moment. We're in a business now where singers can work a lot more than they used to because of the planes, and so the business has been speeded up. That means the toll that is taken on singers' voices is greater than it used to be. A lot of singers will take the road of sort of least resistance. You know, they do. There's a thing called muscle memory of singers, and if they've got something in their voices, that's the way they've always done it, and that's very difficult to change that. And sometimes it's something that needs changing. It's not good, or it's in poor taste, or something. You've got to be very patient with that, because it's something that's sometimes out of their control unless you go at it very, very slowly. But I try to create a relationship with the singer myself that has to do not only as me as conductor and them as singer, and they have to follow me, or I try to create a relationship where we don't know who's following who. Yeah, do the color, but don't slow down yet. Okay. One, labra dolce, but it's getting slower and slower, which it should, but still with tension. Dolcissimo. Yeah, be careful that this doesn't happen. Dolcis. This is dull. Boom. Dolcissimo. We've created a relationship in the room relationship, in other words, in the rehearsal room, something that is so fluid that we can't tell from where that came. Because I'm interested in getting out of them not only the most beautiful sounds and technically correct sounds that they can make, but convincing sounds, expressive sounds, that their eyes are, you look in their eyes, even in the distance, you look and you can see that they actually know what they're saying, that they're actually talking to the person they're saying these words to, That, for me, is very important. That's what opera is.
What's Placido Domingo like to work with?
Well, very interesting. When Placido walks into the room, he somehow raises everybody else's game. That's a fantastic quality, actually, that everybody around him, just by his sheer presence, gets better.
Is that because of who he is? Or
It's
is it
what's emanating from him,
It's actually
too.
a physically present thing, rather than we know it's him
history,
and he's a legend.
it's achievement, it's encouragement. He's a nice guy. He's very positive. And he, he's always just come off a jet, and he's just sung 10 performances of this, conducted 400 performances of that, have done that meeting and been in that seat. That's
makes you look lazy, right?
Yes, but he has this remarkable gift of compartmentalization. When he's with you, he's with you. So when you got him, you got him. He's not thinking about running. He's running Los Angeles Opera, and he's singing Germain, and he's got the Operalia voice competition, and he's got to sing in Moscow tomorrow, and not at all, not for a second is he thinking. He's with you.
How did you learn to conduct?
I have never learned to conduct.
But you can. So how did you get from not being able to being able to?
Yeah, anybody can conduct. Anybody can wave their arms, let me put it that way. The least of it somehow is the waving of the arms. The connection of the person, the eyes, the heart, it's emanating from the musician is very important. When you get to the point where the arm waving and you as a person, as a musician, as somebody who has measured things, has found balance, that all comes into one package, takes years.
Which opera are you not going to give up before you've done?
No, there are 3 operas which I don't let anybody else conduct in this house. And they are Othello, Tristan, and Werther. I'm the boss. No, they're just very personal. Not because there aren't people who can do them better. I'm sure there are. That's not the point. But I just feel very strongly that those pieces are music director pieces. Werther might seem a strange choice to you, but I mean, orchestrally, and it's just a dream.
What about something you haven't done that you won't rest till you've done, though?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've done most of the things I want to do, and I kind of one of my main aims is to repeat the pieces I really want to do again, because I think you can't just do new things all the time. You know, you have to dig deeper in the things that you know. I'm doing Boris for the first time in 2016, and that's always a challenge to conduct in the Russian language, because although I can read the Cyrillic, but I don't speak Russian, and I don't have a natural relationship to the language. Therefore, I have to study and study and study and write really in big on each page sort of the gist of what's going on, you know, so that I really, really know as I'm conducting. That's tough, but I think it's an important piece for every music director, for every conductor to have had a go at once, you know.
We're going to have to leave it there. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.